Welcome to the Chronically Well podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. On today's episode, I have the honor of speaking with Evita. Evita, we haven't formally had many conversations off air. So I truly want to sit down and have a conversation with you regarding your lived experience with diabetes, your diagnosis, all of the above, your family. Because myself, I am a family man, and that's a whole nother perspective that many people don't get to see, how we're able to care for our own well-being. But number one comes our children by far. And so I wanted to get your perspective on that. Again, I thank you for joining me on this journey. Could you please give our audience a brief summary of who you are?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this. So again, my name is Evita. I am 43 years old. I was diagnosed with type 1 when I was 14. So that was 1995. So I've been living with type 1 for 29 years. I have 3 children. I'm very family oriented as well. 1 brother, 1 sister, and I'm also a registered nurse. I've been in nursing now for June of 2025 will be my 20th year in nursing. And I deal in chronic disease management, case management, things like that. And so kind of that's just a brief overview of myself.
Thank you again for giving us that overview of who you are. I jotted down all those notes because they all are a part of you, and we will be covering them all. Again, I truly appreciate you for joining me here. But I do want to start at the last thing you mentioned. You've been an RN for 25 or 20 years. 20 years as an RN, and you're dealing with people with chronic health conditions and ailments. And did diabetes put you in that line, or were you already?
Yes, it did. So when I was diagnosed, I do not remember any of the doctors who took care of me.
Same.
The only thing I remember as far as people who took care of me were the nurses. And there was one nurse in particular who, oh man, she made the biggest difference in the world. It kind of makes me get teary-eyed because she explained things to me, not just to my mom or my grandmother who was there. Like, she talked to me, and her bedside manner was just, I mean, she didn't leave the room until I understood, until I was, had all my questions answered. When she did teaching for how to do my injections, like, she was so patient with me. And I thought, I want to be that kind of a person for people. People might not remember my name, but I hope they remember, what I did for them. And then as far as my career goes, so I've been in healthcare for 20 years. I started off as an LPN. And then I went back and got my RN in 2018. And then I earned my bachelor's after. And I'm currently on a track for my doctorate. So just wanted to. But yeah, so that's what, honestly, it contributed to it. But, being diagnosed as a teenager was rough. We didn't have I didn't have access to continuous glucose monitor, a pump in 1995. It was just literally regular and NPH insulin. And being a teenager, I was so rebellious. I didn't even want to give myself my own injections. I would make my mom do it.
Tell them stories. I've heard them many times over and particularly from young women that did not want to give themselves those injections. It's a lot. Going from being this teen who literally feels invincible, like you can get hurt, pick yourself back up, and then you're already dealing with all of the hormonal and emotional experiences as a young lady, as a young human, to be gifted and given this diagnosis of a new infant, really, that you did not ask for. It had to be much. And I commend your mom for being able to assist you.
Yeah.
Give you that helping hand.
Yeah. She was just scared. I remember when I was diagnosed and I was in the hospital, and they were doing our teaching of how to give injections, and we had to use oranges first to practice. My mom must have broke 5 needles doing it. I'm like, oh, and even still, I didn't want to do it myself. I'm like, I don't care if you break it in me, I'm not doing it.
When I think about them giving the oranges, so I remember when my hospital stay, I remember them coming with the orange, but I don't remember actually ever injecting into the orange. I mean, I may have a lot of that time, because of the high glucose upon diagnosis. It does truly affect, it impairs your memory and train of thought and all of those things. So I don't know if I actually injected into the orange. Maybe I did, but it made me think, because they still do those things today. And you're 25 years in, I'm 22 years in. An orange, when I picture an orange and I think of that thick, leathery, almost like skin, it's nothing like the human skin. Like,
nothing like
maybe if you peel it and you get to the flesh, it may be.
And even then, it's too thin.
Right. Right.
Yeah. No. Now for like teaching, in the teaching that I've been involved in, they do have actual like little, it's a little more comparable to skin, a little more rubbery, I guess, but definitely not as thick as an orange.
Okay.
But it's like a little like square little training pad that we use.
Right. So your mom would not break the needles.
She would not. Well, I would hope not. I would hope not.
And I just wrote that down, thinking about titles for the episode, Breaking Needles.
That's a great title.
Right. It's a great attention getter.
It literally is. Breaking Needles. I like that.
Right. So again, today you're an RN. In your setting, are you in a hospital?
Yeah, so I'm hybrid. So in the role that I'm in a case manager role, and I work for one of the big health systems out here. So I go into clinic a couple times a week, and then I work predominantly from home thereafter. So it's nice, especially with diabetes, especially if you're not having a good blood sugar day and you're like, I can barely make it. It's nice to have that flexibility and be like, hey, I can't come into clinic today. I'll be working remotely.
I understand. Over the last 4 years, I've gotten the best control ever. Like seriously, like being able to work like a hybrid, in a hybrid workspace, predominantly from home. It's been good.
Yeah. So I'm so thankful for that. Really.
Do you often get when you work in the physical hospital settings, did you often get people that came to you for, and this is more so like clinicians, did they come to you for more guided support?
Yeah. Yep. For that, like direct lived experience support. And I actually, I want to say it was back in like 2016 or 2017, I piloted a program for just diabetic teaching in the clinic. And I brought diabetic patients in. It didn't matter, type 1 or type 2. And we just did teaching, just let them bring all their questions, and they would come in 2 or 3 times a week. And after a 3-month period of time, we went back, rechecked A1Cs, and we had like a 60% decrease in A1Cs just from talking, teaching, and sharing our lived experiences. When people understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and also understand that they're not alone, and these are not questions that only they have, and they can share things, I feel like it makes them more open to taking care of themselves. which then gives them better outcomes.
It truly
and so
does.
It does. And we just had a small group of people. I can't even remember. It was maybe 20 patients, but it made a significant difference.
It does. I told you previously, I just got off a call with the young lady from India, Diksha, and she's a psychologist, but she does predominantly work with um, young people with type 1 diabetes and the caregivers of young people with type 1 diabetes. And she also shares how if that education is available and gifted to these families, to these individuals, it helps lessen the burden that is living with this chronic health condition. And it gives support, helps build community, all of those things like you just spoke of. And that does help relieve that stress of this diagnosis. Like you said, you had a 60% reduction or decrease in that A1C. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That helps. And many people don't know that until they actually receive that gift of support, that and that gift of community, that when that A1C does reduce, you are able to do so much more. I just said, like you feel better, your train of thought, just ideas and all of those things, like it just makes you like, wow.
Yeah.
And you say to yourself, I'm never going back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then like us, they want to share that information with others.
Yep.
Keep it going.
Yep.
We appreciate you. I appreciate you as a person that does work in a healthcare field. I predominantly do my work in mental health, trauma therapy, and but my wife, she's actually works in the OR as a surgical assistant, and I know that there's a lot of trauma that you actually bring home with you also.
You do.
And
you do.
You being a caseworker, there's a lot of reviews that you have to go through. So again, I commend you on being that person, having that strength. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Now you were diagnosed in 1995. 1995. Let me think. What's going on in 1995? Okay, that's the year before Tupac was assassinated.
Yeah, so it's whole Tupac, Biggie. I was all in it. Like 95. I remember like that being the biggest parts of my lives. The whole,
right.
I mean, hip hop was wonderful at the time.
95. That was the year of like Monica, Brandy, SWV, Escape, all of that great music.
Yes.
Selena.
Amazing music.
Yeah. Coming of age story for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you were just enjoying everything as a 14-year young child.
And one thing, because I know often people talk about, well, what causes type 1? What are the reasons? And everyone throws their theories out there. And the theory that I think I most resonate with is when you go through a traumatic situation that can trigger an autoimmune response. And for me, because there's no one in my family history that we know of who has type 1, which very well could have been because I'm Puerto Rican and, just Hispanics in general have that more, that history. And so when I was 12, my father passed away. And the year after that, we moved from where we were living in Florida and we moved to Virginia because a lot of my mom's side of the family had moved here from New York. So we came here to have some more family support. And so I think for me, some big triggering events for the onset for me was my father passing and then that huge move in such a pivotal moment in my life. I feel like puberty's hard already. And when you add real life things, hard things, it's a shock to your body. And, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called The Body Keeps Score.
Yes.
It does.
I actually have that book somewhere.
Do you?
It was gifted to me maybe about 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay. And I 100% believe it. All the chronic inflammation, all the things just disrupt your body's normal homeostasis. So to me, I think there are lots of triggering events that can cause autoimmune responses, and that's kind of my lived experience of it. I know other things can trigger it, absolutely. But I know as I've gotten older and really had time to sit down and then understanding the healthcare, portion to it and doing some research and kind of just looking and doing my own inner work with, trauma and things like that. Like, yeah.
Yes. I will say, after aiding thousands of people, and even in this realm on this podcast, recording with the 100+ people I have, there seems to be a direct psychological relationship to the onset, and that's more so that trauma, just as though with a physical trauma or physical ailment, illness, sickness is sickness, whether it's physical or mental, it all affects us eternally.
Yes.
Like you said, again, I know that it's been what, 31 years since your father's transition. It's been 31 years, but I know to a little girl then and forever your father's little girl today that it equally still affects you. And again, in this space, we give flowers to everyone. So today, Evita, I gift flowers to your father for having this child that has continued to live, carry her own dreams while also the memory of her father beside her, because I know that he too would be equally as ecstatic, happy, excited for all that you've become and your continued success in life, love, education, all of those things. So again, thank you to him, and thank you to yourself, to the entirety of your family for being that beacon for you, that beacon of hope, that beacon of continuity moving forward. I say that because I too dealt with many traumatic experiences upon my own diagnosis. And like you mentioned previously, in the Puerto Rican culture, I have many people don't know this until I have these conversations. Like, I have a lot of like my mom's side, most of my cousins are all Puerto Rican, like and my uncles, my aunts, like they're like we have indigenous cultures, Puerto Rican, African descent, all of that mixed in. But I know that when it comes to trauma, when it comes to mental health, psychological, emotional, those types of things, many of those things aren't put in the forefront.
Right.
Because there's so many, over the years I've studied and researched, there's so many different physical things that we're fighting against, fighting for, just to be somewhere near a level playing field.
Yeah.
And, like our grandparents were probably part of the silent generation.
Very much so, yes.
Right. So, yeah, given this space, we honor all of them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You have 3 children.
I do.
May I ask, how old is your oldest?
My oldest is 26 And then my middle is 21 and my baby just turned 12.
Okay. So your oldest is 26.
Yes. So I had her when I was a senior in high school. That rebellious. Mm-hmm. So I fell in love at 15. And man, life was crazy. You know, that I was that in love, crazy teenager driving my mom insane. And my senior year, well, that like end of my junior year, found out I was pregnant. And, you know, of course I'm going to have my baby. And that's, you know, my belief. And did not realize how hard it was going to be, especially with an A1C of like, I want to say my A1C was like in the 11s. Totally rebellious.
That's the teen A1C between 10 and 14
and up.
Yeah.
How high it can go.
Look.
And my pregnancy was hard. And I'm little, like, I mean, like I'm 4'11", like $115, you know, in high school. And pregnancy was all right, but like delivery was, I had to have a C-section. I ended up having to have a C-section with all 3 of my kids. Mm-hmm. All of my pregnancies were hard. And my very last one for my son, actually with my daughter, my body wasn't producing enough red blood cells to keep up with, you know, growing a baby. Mm-hmm. And so I had to have a couple of blood transfusions and I ended up having her early. She went into the NICU, but she's perfect. Thankfully, thank God. And then with my son, by the time I hit 4 months in my pregnancy, I couldn't work. I was exhausted. I had to have blood transfusion after transfusion. And then I was going for iron infusions twice a week. The minute I hit 36 weeks, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I delivered that day. And then I opted to get my a tubal ligation. I wouldn't survive another pregnancy. Right. Not like that. So, but amazingly, my blood sugars were great in my last pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Like amazing. And I wasn't on a pump yet. I was still doing like insulin pen, like a Lantus, like a long acting, short acting. But blood sugars were great. And I ate white rice every single day.
It's cultural.
Yes.
I was just talking to someone about that, and they were like, I eat white rice almost every day. I was like, understood.
And yeah, but now, like, if I look at white rice, my blood sugar goes up 30 points. I'm like, all right. Well,
you gotta freeze it. You gotta chill it first.
And that's right. Let it cool. But that's not the good part.
I know.
You need the hot
right off the pot.
Yes, right out the pot. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had 3 children, you mentioned, with diabetes while having diabetes. Mm-hmm. I asked first about your oldest child because I was like, you were diagnosed at 14, going on 15. So by 3 to 4 years later, you was having a child. And I was like, I know typically for a young person when diagnosed, especially as a teenager, it takes 4 to 5 years at least before they get any kind of like understanding truly of what this is, because again, they're dealing with so many other aspects of growth and development and hormones, all of those things. Like I'm sure by 14 you thought you were an adult. And by 18, definitely you were an adult.
I've grown.
You were grown, all out and about. I was also. Yes. So that original experience while birthing a child, did it help you moving forward when giving birth to your other children? That's what I wanted to know.
Yes. So when I had her, I was still in that, I was, doing my own injections at that point and finally, taking responsibility in that aspect, but I still was not eating properly and doing the right things, but I would take my medicine, insulin every day. Okay. It wasn't until I was working as a CNA, I was in school, I was in college, working as a CNA, taking care of the baby. And a person came in with an amputated, an above the knee amputation because of diabetes. And when I saw that, like when I physically saw that and had to take care of this person, that's when it, like, that was my moment when I was like, I don't want to be like that. I can't be like that. And when I hit 20 years old, I went to this endocrinologist. Shout out to Dr. Wickham. He changed my life, and I still see him till today. He's still my endocrinologist. He never once made me feel badly about anything. He'll be like, "So, Evita, what do you want your A1C to be?" And I'll be like, 6. Why do you want it to be 6? I'm like, I don't know. You know, at that time, I didn't know. I just sounds like a good number.
Sounds like a goal.
Yeah. And
that's like, what the book said.
Yes, that's what the book say. And he's like, why don't we shoot for under 7? How about that? Okay, that sounds good. And then he explained to me why, you know, decreasing chances of, you know, other issues. And so he helped me bring my A1C from whatever number I had it at the time, 11, 12, under, I remember the first time it was like 7.2. And then I went down to like 6.4. And I've been in that 6 range ever since. I haven't come up above. And like myself, right? Like it took a while to get there.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Because many people, they do ask, they're like, how are you able to maintain that under 6 A1C for so many years? And sometimes I'm like dumbfounded, like, because I mean, once I get there, it's almost like if you ever have stopped eating something, like I'm not ever touching that again type of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like that with my blood sugar also. It's like, okay, I've learned how to maintain this so it becomes second nature, like literally. Like there's nothing extra I've been doing. And I also believe that once your body becomes acclimated to being at a certain way, it lets you know, like, this is your normal now.
Yes.
I'm going to keep you here. So when you start seeing the even small rises, your body is like, do something now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you learn how foods affect your blood sugar. And right, like every diabetic is different. Yes. You can eat a whole bowl of rice, take your 40 grams, 4 units, however many units you need to take, and you're good. Me? Mm-mm. Rice doesn't agree. Pizza doesn't agree. Everyone has their things, and it's the things I love the most, of course, that don't agree. But I think what we learn in maintaining these A1Cs is that, you know what, I can have that maybe just a little bit because I do want it. I don't deprive myself. I'm just not going to have the big bowl that I want. And you're learning and tweaking as you go because you realize that when your blood sugar is super high or when it's super low, no one wants to feel that way. No one wants to feel that way. Like it's awful feeling. And so I think that's what becomes part of that second nature is learning, okay, I need to stay away from this one, or I'm having a good blood sugar day, or, like Thanksgiving, my blood sugar was in range 98%. That was the only day it was like that. And I'm like, how did I manage that on Thanksgiving? Like, I don't understand how I did that. Every other day, I'm like 70, 80%. And I'm like, you know what it is? It's because that day I was particularly in tune because I didn't want a super high or super low. So I'm like dosing for every little thing. And I'm like, if I was just like that every day, but it's stressful to do that every day. Like, great. Like I read somewhere that diabetics have to make an extra 180 decisions per day on top of just life, just breathing, living.
Right. Upwards of 180 decisions per day. People with specifically type 1 diabetes have to make per day. And that goes from everything from when you wake up, foot to the floor, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth. Those decisions you have, we've already made tens of decisions. And it's crazy when you think about it. Going to sleep. Most people, when they're sick or tired, they're like, oh, go take a nap. You'll be all right. You know how many decisions go into? I've never in almost 22 years. Well, let me not say almost 22 years because those first 5 to 7 plus,
they're questionable.
let's say the last decade, maybe the last decade. I have not gone to bed without thinking about multiple things. Like, do I have this emergency kit, which is glucagon, drink, candy, things next to my bedside? Do I have alerts on? Can I see my blood sugar by just looking over types of like, there's a lot that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. People just don't understand.
They don't. Do you ever think of like, how did I survive that first 15 years?
I have no clue how I survived the first 5 to 6 years. Like, I was not good at all with checking my blood sugar. I hated it. I don't know how I survived. I just took the insulin they told me to take, and that was it. Like, I remember being in high school, already diagnosed, and my breakfast would be a can of Pepsi and a bag of Doritos. Like, okay, I'm walking around here with probably in the 300s. Okay. Like, I don't know.
Probably had no 504 or IEP, nothing.
Nope, nothing. Didn't even know about those things.
Exactly.
I know my mom didn't. Like, don't even know how I survived. Like now you have your CGMs, you have a follow app so parents can follow their kids. And like, I'm like, man, where was this stuff when I was first diagnosed? But it's amazing. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's around now.
Yeah, my 10-year-old, he reads these books. I have to say it while I'm on here. He has a above 12th grade reading level.
Amazing.
And he's in 5th grade. But he reads these books. How did I survive? It's like, how did I survive the shark attack of 1924 or whatever? Like, and he reads those books, and it's almost like I'm asking you, how did you survive the diabetes onset of 1995? Like, right.
It was a war zone. I'm telling you, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. How did you survive? How did your family survive? All of those things.
No one understood. No one understood what diabetes was. I can remember, coming home from the hospital and lots of aunts and cousins and everybody around. And I was getting a lot of attention, of course, because I had been sick and I lost all this weight. And so people were like, make sure you're eating and drinking and blah. And one of my cousins, probably maybe a year or two older than me, 15, 16, I was sitting at the table and just drinking some water because that's all they would let me drink right then. And he was like, man, I wish I had diabetes. You're getting all the attention. I said, I would trade you right now if I could. I said, but you don't want this. You don't want this.
You do not want this at all.
You don't want this. I don't wish this on my worst enemy.
So you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest, yep.
You're the baby.
I am the baby. Yep.
So when this diagnosis came about, you were the only child still in the house. So your siblings didn't even get a true feel or understanding of what it was. Probably still don't today.
So I think now they have a little bit of a better understanding just seeing me, over the last almost 30 years. But at the time, it was just me and my mom. We had just moved to Virginia, and my sister and her husband and kids were still living in New York. And so I had gone up there to visit because I would go to New York during the summer times, like to hang out with my grandma, aunts, uncles, kind of just and give my mom a break. And so I was up there for the summer, actually. And I was staying at my sister's house for a couple of days before I was going back over to my grandma's. And my sister noticed that something was wrong with me. She was just like, are you high? I was like, am I high? What are you talking about? Like I couldn't eat. The only thing I wanted to drink was like sodas. Like I was so thirsty. Her and her husband went to work. They took the kids to daycare and stuff like that. When she came home, I was laying on the ground with a bottle of soda. And I was like, I'm just so thirsty. She was like, you're high. I'm calling mommy and I'm taking you to the hospital. And I was like, I'm not high. Like, little did I know.
In hindsight, was this during was this like summer break?
It was summer break. Yep. 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 And so took me to the hospital, and sure enough, blood sugar was like, they said if I would have waited like a day or two, I probably wouldn't have made it.
We've all had that.
All had that moment. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You were high. Literally.
I was high. Literally, I was high though.
Have a conversation with her today. Well, I really was high. And she's like, I knew
thought I was.
Yeah. Right. So your sister was the first one to actually see or notice the signs.
That difference. Yeah.
Because they come on so drastically. Like I mean, your mom was in Florida at the time?
She was actually in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she hadn't seen you, and that was before FaceTime. Even before like the days of our era. We grew up with we had AOL.
It was before that. Because AOL was like what, 98, 99?
Right.
Yeah. So before any of that, we were still dialing up. Hello.
Yeah, there was literally no video calls. I mean, if you had someone who you liked, you may have sent them some photos,
right?
Like via the mail.
Via mail.
Yeah, kids are like, young people today are listening. Like, what do you mean?
Yes.
We sent away photos we never got back. Right, some baby pictures. I remember those days. That's messed up. Mom will never know.
They'll never know. I love it though. I'm thankful to have grown up in that era.
Same.
Nothing recorded.
Exactly. And we had no one. We weren't. I mean, we were truly identifying like as ourselves. I mean, there were some people like in pop culture that we may have loved, adored. Like Tupac is my heart forever. Like that's my guy. But I mean, I didn't want to be Tupac.
Right.
I didn't copy his every move. I didn't know who he was going on a date with, who he broke up with.
Right. We didn't know any of that unless it was on some diss tracks.
Right. Or unless Wendy Williams mentioned it.
Right. Wendy Williams, right.
Right. You were diagnosed in New York. Do you remember the hospital or?
Yep. I was at Stony Brook. That was that. I ended up at a really good hospital. Yep.
Okay.
So thankful that I did, end up there because they were amazing. So I remember my mom was so panicked when my sister called her, told her I was in a hospital. She just found the first flight and got there, and she thought I was dying, she had no idea what was going on. She didn't understand. And we had just lost my dad, 2 years before. So she was just like, she was still in shock from that. So it was definitely tough. It was tough, but we made it. But yeah, my sister and my sister more so because she works in the healthcare field too. She's a medical assistant. So she's really got a better understanding of what type 1 is. And she's very, very, very supportive. My whole family is. They may not understand, but they know when they hear something beeping. They're like, Evita, are you okay? I'm good.
Right. Yeah. And that's great that we do have the technology today that truly has advanced and made living with this chronic health condition less of a burden, a little bit more at ease. Even for the caregivers, they don't have the many unknowns. Because when we think about living with type 1 diabetes, at times a low and a high could look identical. And pre-technology, people were treating whatever. Because, I mean...
Just didn't know. We didn't know.
When we think about like test strips, we weren't test strips were very expensive back then. They're expensive today, but when you think about like the cost of technology, I remember like going months without getting test strips because I couldn't we couldn't
It's
afford them.
expensive. Yeah, it's expensive.
And that was the technology before this technology.
Before this technology.
And if we were only testing, let's say, I'm going to say that I wasn't testing this often. I wasn't testing in the morning, lunch, and night. I wasn't testing in the. I was testing maybe once every few weeks.
Yeah, because the
And
strips are expensive.
they were expensive, and there weren't the resources that are out there today.
Right.
There's so many resources at hand where if you are without um, one resource is another person, a community,
Mm-hmm.
resources within whatever clinic or hospital you go to, you attend, they may have resources, resources within different government settings. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know here where I live that we have a diabetes emergency fund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where it's $500 per year.
That's
So like
great.
if I'm without CGMs,
Mm-hmm.
I can tap into that $500. Once I have to reach out to like social services or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tap into that $500 and you can do it up to twice per year.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'm not aware of any programs like that here, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. But I can remember going without, a pump and CGM because I couldn't afford it. And this was, and I make a decent living, but last year, so I currently work for VCU Health System, which they have great insurance coverage. But prior to that, I was working for a private company, and with their insurance, I was spending anywhere between $300 to $500 a month just on supplies, to the point where I thought about going just back to the pen and just using, a glucometer until I could figure things out. Cause I was literally going into debt just to live, just to survive and to have it be a little more convenient for me. I really contemplated it. But luckily, this new position came up, and thankfully, like, I have a $0 copay on a lot of my stuff. And then my pump supplies are what kind of cost me the most, but nowhere near the 300 to 500 I was spending. So it's been life changing for me. And so I can't imagine, those who don't have it, and their insurance coverage sucks and they just cannot afford it. So they're just doing what they can to get by. And I think that's so sad. It's so sad. And you think about other countries who, their supplies are free. Insulin is the cost of what it costs to make it, not, increased by 500%. Like, it's not right that, we have to deal with that. We literally need this to live. If nothing else, we need the insulin. And it's awful that we have to deal with that.
I was thinking when you mentioned that previous job where you were paying $300 to $500 per month towards those supplies, and I was thinking like the people who work next to you who may not even have children, families, like, and they have that extra and it's not even an extra 300 to 500. It's a $300 to $500 you should have.
You made. You
Right,
worked and you made.
right. Like if they were to get sick, catch a cold, or whatever, okay, they can go get a prescription filled that may cost like $2 or something. But you, on the other hand, like you have to pay into this or you're going to be reducing truly your well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I speak of this often because I do tend to like I'm all about being on an even playing field. Everything in life, nothing is fair, but we should somehow be trying to meet that with like care,
Yeah.
love, all of those things. And I've spoken to many people who were like who've truly been upset about working in certain fields and having the person next to them doing the equal job and getting paid exactly the same amount, but the job chooses a certain coverage, a certain insurance. And when someone brings it to their attention, like I have to put this much into, and they're like, that's not so, that's your health.
Right.
And it's all like, how can we globally, first here in the US, how can we make it to where because of our own income base or living experience, health concerns or whatnot, how can we make it to where we don't have to continuously struggle or look at other people with that look of like, why do I have to do this and you don't? Like
Right.
it's not something that they did and it's not something
Yeah.
that you did.
Right.
But there's a
Right.
big brother out there that's controlling all of this.
All of it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, like it's hard. Because when I was speaking to a young lady from India today, she was saying that even if you're low income, there's a tax on, they don't have CGMs in India. They have
You don't.
flash glucose monitors only.
Oh.
No continuous glucose monitors, only flash. Libre. Um,
Yeah.
and there's a 18% tax on the flash glucose monitors. That equals 5,500 rupees, which is equal to between $64 and $65 per CGM that you must pay to have one, even if you're low income, government assistance. So many of the people in India do not wear glucose monitors at all
Wow.
because of the inaffordability. And
Wow.
a couple weeks ago, I shared a petition from India where they're trying to let, get the government's attention to the cost of these of not only CGMs but insulin pumps as well, because
Mhm.
it's looking like predominantly only people who are wealthy are able to afford them. And it's very, I mean, I told her, I said here in the US, like even if you're low income, you receive like Medicaid, you can get these devices. There's no added tax to it. And
No.
she was like, for real? I was like, yeah. She was like, it's horrible. She's like, if you're low income here, you cannot get these things. And this, it goes with the same with insulin availability also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wish that there was a better or more reliable way of making sure that everyone is able to access the same things.
Yes.
I don't want to feel like I'm living in a luxury because
Right.
I can get the things I need to be my best.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember during my pregnancy, my second, yes, my second daughter, I wasn't able to work once I was like 6 or 7 months pregnant with her. And the cheaper option was for me to have Medicaid at that time because I was on short-term disability. And so it just made more sense. And they would not cover my test strips, even though I'm type 1. So I had to get like the cheap CG or glucose monitor from like Walmart to like rely on. Yep. And the strips are just more affordable. And being pregnant, I really did need to check my blood sugar more, but I would keep it to morning and before bed just to make it last. And, you know, it's sad that, you know, you have to do that, but we need this to survive, you know, like you have to basically ration out your supplies just to be able to afford to live.
Right. And rationing out your supplies mean that you're putting some detriment to your health and well-being, because if you're rationing out supplies, rationing out insulin, any of those things, then that means other complications may occur.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's crazy when you think of like some of the complications that could occur and how they can be preventable if people were to have access to these needed supplies. Things such as chronic kidney disease, which I think it's like more than 80% of people who are in renal failure or people that have lived with diabetes. And for the most part, when people are diagnosed with renal failure, chronic kidney disease, dialysis, they get like there's assistance for that.
Yeah.
But
you're at end stage at that point.
Right.
So all the things that you could have had to prevent you getting to the end stage renal disease, that would have been way more cost effective because dialysis is expensive. So not just the hospitalization to get like the fistula ports, whatever put in, but also being dialyzed 3 to 4 times a week, also setting up transportation to get there. You know, there's so many other little costs, and it's so much more expensive than just saying, hey, we could cover your test strips and your medication to help prevent you getting to this point. But that's not the society we live in. We don't live in a preventive care society. We live in a treat because it's where the money's made. And it's sad.
It's extremely sad. But I still do commend our healthcare workers.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that the great majority of people who work in the healthcare do want better. They want more. You wouldn't go through the years of education without that being an empath at heart.
Right. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I feel like most clinicians, most providers, you know, in healthcare, it's usually out of their hands. It's in insurance companies' hands. And you have people who don't have any kind of healthcare experience evaluating these claims and denying them based on a set of rules that they have without any understanding on how treating any illness, much less chronic illness, works, you know, on how you can, if in the forefront, you can use preventive care, you can prevent, you know, larger costs and complications and, you know, further treatments. And so I think it's backwards. It's backwards.
Yeah. And I did have that. Before recording, I had sent you the message about like no notes, but I guess we did cover that CGMs and technology. CGMs and technology. It took me years to actually tap into them because I didn't even want to look at the cost and the expense.
Yeah.
When did you get your first pump?
I was 36. 36 was when I got my first pump.
22 years post-diagnosis.
Yep. And it was number one, cost. Number two, it was a foreign body on my body. And I was just scared. I didn't have very much trust. And so I was like, what if it accidentally dosed me too much and I just never wake up? But no, I started with the CGM first because I wanted to get used to just wearing something. And then when it was time for me to choose a pump, I was like, I absolutely want no cords. I don't want any tubing. I want nothing. So the only one I would do was Omnipod because that was what was available at the time for tubeless. And I've been on it since. So, and now I think, as long as I can afford to stay on it, I will stay on it for as long as I can.
Right. Same. Living with chronic health conditions or life altering. Mm-hmm. How do you stay upbeat and motivated while living with a chronic health condition?
I think it's just such a norm for me that it's already in my daily routine. And then on the days that I have can I just have a break from diabetes today? Can I just not? I just remind myself, if I want to keep living and keep feeling okay, then you have to do it. But there are days that I'm just like, I need to break. Like, I don't want to look at my blood sugar today. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about how many carbs does this have? I don't want to think about it. I want to go drink mimosas with my friends and not worry about how much insulin I need to take so I'm not in the 300s. And on those days, sometimes I just have to allow myself to be in that moment. I have to let myself it's okay. It's okay. You can be sad. You deal with this 24/7, 365 days a year. You can have a moment. And so I've actually recently learned that this year, that I just have to give myself grace to say, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to not want to have diabetes today.
Right. It's okay to mourn it.
It's okay to mourn it. It's okay. I don't remember not having diabetes. Even though I was diagnosed at 14, I don't remember what it was like to eat something and not worry about it.
Right.
So
the
I think
majority of our lives we have lived with it. So it's become a part of us.
It is. We've now lived with it longer than we have not.
Correct.
And I think that's a big thing with anyone with a chronic illness, is to say to yourself, it's okay. It's okay to have a bad day.
Right.
It's okay.
So has diabetes over the years affected relationships, whether it's family, friends, significant others, children? Have it affected coworkers? Have it affected any of the relationships you've had?
Yes. I think in my first marriage, he wasn't ever really concerned, but that was again because we were young and, I was still gaining an understanding of it myself. But, currently I feel very supported by everyone around me. Even the people who don't understand they ask questions. They're like, my favorite is, oh my gosh, my blood sugar's low. Oh, do you need insulin? I'm like, no, you're going to kill me. Just get me some juice. But it's that they ask. I appreciate them asking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, keep just showing the help.
Yes. And even, I always think about this. So I have little nephews. And at the time, my youngest nephew might have been 4 or 5. And we're swimming and I have on my pump, my CGM. And he just comes up and he's like, what's that? And I said, well, it's my pump and my glucose monitor. It gives me insulin when I need it. And this tells me what my blood sugar is. What's that? So trying to explain to like a 5-year-old, I'm like, well, every time you eat something, your blood sugar goes up. And for me, my body doesn't work to help me. So I have to use this to help me. He's like, oh. And then my other nephew, like literally a couple of days later, we had the same exact conversation. And then we're out eating somewhere and he looks at me and he goes, Evita, because he couldn't say my name right at the time. Evita, don't you gotta take your insulin now? And I was like, dude, thank you. And it's like, if little kids could take the time out to do that, just because they don't understand something, they can just ask you. And then all of a sudden they have an aha moment for themselves. Everyone needs to be like that. Like everyone. And I think back when I was not on a pump and was on pens and we'd be out somewhere eating and I'd like hide under the table to give insulin or go to the bathroom so people wouldn't stare at me. I'm like, if people were just kind or just mind their business, I would feel better. And I know other people who are like me would feel better, you know?
Right.
But overall, I'm so thankful because, you know, some people are not so lucky. My family will ask questions. They will ask what they can do to help, even if they don't understand. And I know that a lot of people don't have that.
Right. Oh, yeah. And that's a great reason why I try to build the communities that I have built, because people need that voice of reason. They need that support, just someone to say, you can do it.
Yes.
Like, just just be present.
Just be there. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to say, oh, you should do this or that. No, just sit here while I have my moment.
Right.
And if I need something, I'll tell you. And can you get it for me? Like,
because even after living with diabetes for so long and knowing it so well, we still wouldn't trust another person to monitor it.
No.
Like, not at all. We do whatever we can to avoid the hospital first.
Yes. Because the first thing they want to do is take off your pump, your CGM, and start you on a sliding scale.
Right.
And I'm like, why in 2024 do we still have a sliding scale? Like, I will never, ever understand.
Right. I remember a sliding scale back in 2003. And I think at that time I probably was on a 70-30 mix, regular NPH.
Oh my gosh, I do not miss those days.
Not at all. So yeah, having family, having community means a lot. That's just people being present, being supportive. Just a couple months ago, me and my oldest son, he's 16, and we were in a car. I can't remember. We were going somewhere, and I'm like, my pump had like failed while we're driving, and I'm like, can you reach into my bag and get my pump Omnipod? I'm like, can you get the controller or whatever? And I'm telling him what to do step by step while I'm driving. I'm like, can you get 200 units, pull it out? He's like this. And he never ever had done this before. He injects it, everything, he primes it. And I'm like, all right, just hand it to me now. I put it on. I'm like, can you start it? He started it. And like, that was a moment right there where like, I was like, my guy's good. Like,
yeah.
Like, and I told him, I said, you could like, you're literally like helping save my life. Like, really.
Literally.
Like, you are.
Yes. And we had a moment like that over the summer. We had a cookout gathering, and we're all sitting around. Everyone's just having a good time. And my CGM starts going off. My blood sugar's low. And one of the kids brings me a Capri Sun. So I'm sitting there just still talking to everybody, drinking my Capri Sun. And my niece looks at me and goes, isn't it amazing how you're just sitting here, we're just hanging out, and this little juice box is just saving your life? I'm like, never thought about that before. Never thought about it. You going to get this juice box for me sitting here while we're still having a conversation. I'm saving my life right now. And I'm like,
with a juice box.
With a juice box. And you don't realize how other people don't realize it until it's happening in that moment, right? Like, it's nothing that ever dawns on us because this is normal. I just need to drink this juice to save my life. But when other people point it out, you're like, wow, that is definitely the truth. Definitely the truth.
The amount of times we've saved our lives with a juice box or some gummies or like,
right, anything that's right there. Like, right. I literally always have a low snack and like, Like, always
Oh, and I have
something.
oh, you
Yes.
can't. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah. I have a ginger ale right
always
there. Like,
something, it's like we don't go anywhere without it. I literally keep a bag of Starburst in my car. Like there's something every place.
right, we have to,
I have to.
and it's almost like it's like we're forever toddlers,
Forever toddler.
forever toddlers in our terrible twos, like kicking and screaming, and we need a juice box or some candy.
That's forever us. I'm forever
Yeah.
toddler. I never even thought about it that way.
Right. So I can sense that diabetes hasn't truly prevented you from being your best.
It hasn't. It hasn't. And I never thought of diabetes as like a disability or anything like that. I just always thought of it as this extra thing I have to do. And now I don't knock anybody who needs it as a I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. It is a disability.
It is.
It really is. We need lots of extra things to live how a normal person can live. But I never thought about it that way. And I've never like used any sort of like a disability placard or anything like that because
like throwing
I
up a
feel like
diabetes card.
right. Ever. The only one time I ever used it was we were at Disney. I didn't even know like the disability access pass was a thing, like, and we're in line and I literally had to take no extra insulin that day because I walked 18,000 steps. I had my whole bag of Starburst with me and had to use it every time we were in line. And I was like, okay, this is getting even more exhausting. Like I can't keep up with my blood sugars. Like this is just, and one of the guest services heard me talking. She was like, come here. And so I went over there and she gave me and my family the disability access pass. And we were able to ride rides. We were able to schedule something. I could go get a drink and sit down and come back and ride the ride at a certain time. And I thought, never in my life have I ever thought of this as a disability, but today it's a disability. Today, I want to enjoy this. I absolutely love Disney. And I had to use it. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't, because I tried to do it without it. And so having that, I felt so blessed to be able to really enjoy myself and, not hold my family back from enjoying their time also. I know they've stopped issuing those passes for people with type 1, which is pretty sad. But, again, I never thought of it as a disability until it was for me in that moment.
Right. You were physically able-bodied until that moment occurred. So it's almost like, should it be a preventative step by offering it, or should it be based on if something were to occur?
Right.
Hopefully someone's able to catch when that thing does
happen.
occur.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation at Six Flags last summer where my kids had to run to the fountain and get me some soda because my blood sugar had dropped to like 40. And I'm sitting there on a bench and I'm like, I couldn't explain to them what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just go get me something, some juice, something. And my kids are like running around trying to get it while I'm sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's hard because it's not only hard for you, but it's hard for the people who love you, because then they get panicked and they're like, what do we do? So having something like a access pass for somewhere is helpful for people like us,
Right. And I wrote down a juice box stipend.
No, seriously.
Like literally for grown up, we need some juice boxes.
We do need juice boxes. They should be free for us, little juicy juices or something. I don't know.
Right. Have you ever imagined your life without diabetes? Yes.
I have imagined it without it, and just the thought of how much money I would save, and maybe I wouldn't feel so tired every single day of my life, just to not feel tired.
Right. I mean, not even having to think about it.
Right. Like most people get up every day and they don't think about anything but what they need to do.
Like I can literally just wake up and go to the gym.
What? I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I need to first drink this juice box and have these gummies. And then I got to watch my blood sugar while I'm at the gym.
Right.
And
where I need to bring my blood
before
sugar
my
down.
feet even hit, right, before I do it.
Right, that's
But us,
effect.
before our feet hit the floor, we get up and look at what our blood sugar is, like to start our day. That's the first thing. If you've made it through the night without a low.
All right. Thank you again for gifting me your time and space.
Thanks for having me.
First, is there anything that we did not cover that you wanted to cover through this recording?
Not that I can think of. I think we touched on a little bit of everything.
Okay. I'm just making sure that I'm doing my part. What's some good advice that you've either received or any you'd like to share or gift to the community or to someone newly diagnosed or the caregivers of someone with diabetes? And you could break it apart however you want.
Yeah. I think what I would say to everyone, this is whether you're newly diagnosed, have had it for decades, or you're the caregiver of someone with type 1 diabetes or a chronic illness, is you have to give yourself grace. Nothing is perfect. And in our world, less than perfect is how we live. And I think it's just knowing that, give yourself permission to say, I'm okay. It's okay. Tomorrow will be better. You know, I think it's just being able to give yourself some grace.
Grace.
Yeah.
Yes, grace is something that we should live by because we know time is the inevitable, but in between that time, just try to give yourself some grace, some peace. You know, just love on yourself, love on your child, love on your lived experience, whether it's 1 day or 3 decades of living with this.
Right.
Just know that you made it.
Yeah.
Because the alternative, a little over 100 years ago, was the other inevitable.
Yep.
Yeah. I end all of my recordings with this question to my guest, Evita. There's a lot going on today in science, research, biomedicine, technology that does help lessen this burden living with diabetes.
Yeah.
On the day, Evita, speak this into existence. On the day that a cure is here and it's readily available to all, everyone can access it. And Evita, you are cured. On that day, what do you do?
I think I would try to run a mile. I would run a mile and realize I don't need to know what my blood sugar is. I don't care because it doesn't matter. Honestly, that would be the first thing I did. Then I'd go to Disney.
I know you're a Disney-aholic.
Yes.
Run a mile and then go to Disney. While you're saying that, I would just run a mile. I was trying to think of the name of a movie. Hold on. Dang, I can't remember the name of it right now. It's a Will Ferrell movie.
Oh, I love Will Ferrell. Does he say that in the movie?
No. The one where he's in the fraternity in college.
Oh,
it's my older brother's favorite movie.
Is it Old School?
Old School.
Yeah.
The first thing when he's like, I'm going to run, I said, I'm going streaking. And his wife was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm waiting on the guys. They're coming too. We're going streaking." She's like,
"We're going streaking."
She's like, "Get in this car."
Yes.
On that day, Evita, that a cure is here for us all. You hit me up. I'll travel whatever miles it is, and I'll run that mile with you. Okay. My sister, I truly appreciate you for gifting me your presence on the Chronically Well podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. And Evita, you are someone that truly needs to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.